Everybody uses terms like CPU, RAM, hard drives. We've heard these terms, but in this episode, I want to talk about what really is a computer. Now, in order to have a computer, remember why we have them in the first place. It's to get stuff done. We do things like generate spreadsheets or edit videos or control traffic or play games. No matter what it is, the whole function of a computer is to get something done, either work or play. So the cornerstone of any computer you're going to have out there are the CPUs. So here's a couple of CPUs I've got laying in here. Now, a lot of times we'll say a CPU is like the brain of the computer, and it's really more like a really super high-speed calculator. And what we do is we write programs that the processor can then do stuff with to manipulate peripherals and to create these things called files to get stuff done. So we have these huge things called programs. Now, programs can be applications like, say, Microsoft Word or Edge browser, something like that, or it could be a utility that helps us get on a network, but they're all programs. So when your computer's turned off, those programs have to sit someplace, and that's what these guys are all about. This is mass storage. So in this particular case, this is called an M.2 SSD, solid state drive, and it stores stuff statically. And this is an older school, but still very popular, hard drive. It's got spinning platters in there. The only thing these guys do is they store data, whether that data is a program or a Microsoft Word document, when you're not using it. When you're on your computer and doing whatever you're doing, and suddenly you double click on an icon to say start up Microsoft Word, a lot of things start to take place. First of all, your computer, the CPU, knows how to talk to the hard drive. He'll say, go get that Microsoft Word. Now, hard drives are fast, but the problem is they're not nearly as fast as a CPU. So while we are, you ready, running a program, what we're really doing is we're taking a copy of that program off of the mass storage and we're putting it onto our RAM, our random access memory. So when a program is running, it is stored in RAM. RAM is super fast, not quite as fast as a CPU, but it's very, very fast. The only downside is compared to a hard drive, RAM is very, very expensive. So we only use RAM when we're running a program. So what will happen is the CPU will then copy, let's say Microsoft Word, copies the Microsoft Word program onto RAM, and then it begins running the Word program. Now the Word program basically sits there with a nice white screen waiting for you to press buttons on your keyboard. Hi Mom, I am fine, love Mike. So the program itself is monitoring peripherals. In this particular case, it's monitoring the keyboard. And as each letter gets pressed, it starts showing up on the screen, and you write yourself a letter. And then you go through a process of saving your data, saving a file. So what will happen is then the CPU will then instruct the data that you've written on RAM. It doesn't go to the hard drive automatically. The data you've written on RAM, you hit File, Save, and then that's copied also to your mass storage. So mass storage stores two very different things. Number one, it's storing the programs that aren't in use. And number two, it stores our data, our pictures, our Word documents, our saved games, whatever it might be. So we go through this process back and forth and back and forth. In order to be a computer, you have to have a processor, you have to have RAM, and you have to have mass storage. There's no exception to that. The other thing, and we'll cover this in another episode, is you need some kind of program that is the king of all programs. We call these operating systems. So even though in this series I use desktop computers a lot, big desktops, the reason I use them is because, well, they're big and it's easy for me to show you RAM and a CPU and a hard drive and stuff like that. But what I need you to get in mind right away is that computers aren't just desktops. Take a look over here. This is a perfectly good little laptop computer. Inside this laptop is a CPU. Inside this laptop is mass storage. Inside this laptop is lots and lots of RAM and video and a keyboard and all kinds of other stuff too. This is a computer. Here's my little Apple tablet. Inside this Apple tablet is a CPU. Inside this tablet is RAM. Inside this tablet is mass storage. There's even an operating system all built in to this one little tablet. But don't let it stop there. Here's an Android phone. This Android phone has a CPU, it has RAM, it has mass storage, it has an operating system. It's all built into that. I mean, let's go crazy here. You ever heard the term Internet of Things? Here's a little device called a Raspberry Pi. This is a little tiny, tiny computer, but heck, this thing's even got USB ports and a network connection and all that type of stuff. On this particular guy, we've got CPU, RAM, mass storage, everything. And in fact, on this guy, it's all actually put onto one individual chip. We use the term system on a chip to define that type of thing. Computers are everywhere. The washer and dryer in my house is a full computer system. I could actually turn on the dryer using my phone. Use cameras or anything like that? This camera has CPU, RAM, operating system, everything is all in this camera. How about the routers or the wireless access points that we use in our home? These guys are also complete computers. Inside this computer is going to be a CPU, RAM, storage, an operating system, everything that we need to be a complete computer. So be careful when you use the word computer. The computers have taken over, happily, because it sure makes our lives convenient, and everything from the big desktops, which we'll be concentrating on in this series, down to the smallest little camera, or in my case, washer and dryer, is all a computer. All you need is CPU, RAM, mass storage, and something called an operating system.